This is the A400M Atlas, Europe's most advanced military transport aircraft. It's the same aircraft where Tom Cruise strapped himself to the side in Mission Impossible. But today, we're here to show you something a little bit different. This week, we're here in the United Kingdom, where we've been granted rare access inside 2 flying squadrons of the Royal Air Force.
Cool, that's 1400 Zulu, that's time hack for flat. We're going to showcase to you some of the capabilities that we have on the A400.
We've definitely got a lot in store. And so for the very first time on this channel, we're taking you inside the Royal Air Force to explore the legendary A400M!
Essentially, it's an intense 5 minutes.
Just entering the back loop now. This is absolutely insane!
It's tiny movements with our side stick.
Right tank off the basket, got about 10 knot overtake on him.
From ramp riding! Woo! To airdrops.
Green on.
To low-level tactical flying. This is as jam-packed of a video as it can get.
My name is Connor and I'm a pilot here on the Airbus A400M Atlas, and welcome to RAF Brize Norton. So RAF Brize Norton is the largest Royal Air Force base in the UK, and it's the home of the Air Mobility Fleet. Over 7,000 personnel, military and civilian. It has strategic and tactical airlift, air-to-air refueling operations, parachuting operations, and many, many others. It's based just outside of Oxfordshire, west of London. And basically, the RAF uses Brize Norton to project its air power worldwide. And in essence, around the globe, if the UK military is involved, Brize Norton will be involved in some way, shape or form.
For almost 60 years, the RAF relied on the legendary C-130 Hercules for its medium-range tactical airlift role. But as missions got more complex and distances needed to travel got longer, they needed something new. The A400M Atlas made its maiden flight back in 2009 and was first delivered right here to Brize Norton in 2014, making it one of the newest military cargo aircraft designs of the 21st century. And for my US viewers who are wondering if the US Air Force will ever fly the A400M, it seems doubtful. Not because of a lack of capability, but because of the sheer number of new C-130Js, its massive fleet of over 200 C-17s, and its jumbo C-5. The US just doesn't have as big of a need for a medium-range tactical airlifter like the Atlas.
So the A400M was basically a hybrid that was designed from the ground up to fill a gap that the C-130 and the C-17 had. The C-130 was a flexible, adaptable aircraft doing the sort of more tactical stuff, and the C-17 was doing the more strategic stuff, flying from A to B with other few things involved. And out of that came the A400M. From comparison-wise, this is about 45 meters long, 42 meters wide and 15 meters high. And comparison from the C-130, it's about 50% longer, take about 50% more weight, and it's a little bit smaller than the C-17 by about 20%. So dimension-wise, it's definitely in between. And as you can see, it's a bit of a beast.
Yeah, and I read that around 30% of the exterior of the aircraft is made from a composite carbon fiber material, which is obviously a huge reduction in weight. I assume that's what helps give this aircraft so much performance and capability.
Yeah, definitely. So the composite is all in the propeller, it's in the wing surfaces, and it's in the tail. So having that does make it a lot more flexible integrity-wise and helps sort of flying with lift capabilities. And then paired with the fact that it's built by aluminium, steel, and a few others, that gives it its great structural integrity to resist like corrosion and fatigue, and in general, just for landing the places where you go, it just makes it so much better and adaptable.
Now, what I can't get over is the sheer size and shape of these things. I mean, that's probably 5.5 meters in diameter, and they kind of look like scimitars. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're massive, and as I said earlier, the propellers are fully composite and they're kind of designed to flex just to enable the better sort of lift characteristics, and they're contra-rotating, which basically means engine 1 and engine 3 will rotate clockwise and engine 2 and 4 will rotate anti-clockwise, and what that does is allow symmetrical airflow over the wing which increases lift capacity, handling characteristics and stability. As well as that, it enables better 3 engine performance and handling. So overall, they're very, very good and very capable propellers.
So we've talked a lot about how the A400M was designed to fill the gap between the C-130 and the C-17. And this cargo bay right here is a perfect example of how it does that. It's much larger than a Hercules, meaning you can fit bigger vehicles, more troops, and heavier equipment. But it's not as large as a C-17, meaning it's still agile enough to land on short runways or unprepared airstrips. I'll put up a graphic that you can pause or screenshot to see how the payload capabilities differ between the 3 aircraft. But what I will say is that the design aesthetics of the A400M are stunning. It looks and feels like a brand new modern aircraft back here. And once we go up and check out the flight deck, I think you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Welcome to the A400 flight deck. The first thing that people see when they come in as the main thing is just how modern the cockpit is. They'll first see all the glass cockpit and actually don't realise that the A400M is probably one of the most modern military aircraft that is out there, especially by Airbus. They first will notice all the glass screens, all the down here, and don't realise that there's actually no analog instruments in here. So going from left to right, we've got our NTDs, navigation, tactical displays, and then all the way across to yours. So you see you've got your moving map. So your moving map is basically all the scale of the charts that we have. And then from there, we've got engine warning displays, engine system displays, and literally everything you can get in here is fully glass and fully modern, from what you would see from traditional and older aircraft like the C-130, which have some screens, but not to this level. A lot of people also recognise it for people who know their aircrafts, like the Airbus A380. If you add a picture of that next to it, it's basically a like for like. And they used the A380 and other Airbus cockpits to actually adapt and become the Airbus A400M Atlas.
Yeah, I love it. It's stunning, and it definitely has the classic Airbus look. I love the side stick control. Did that take a bit of adjustment in getting used to for a military pilot? I'm sure you guys are used to center console controls and yokes.
Yeah, definitely. It's also fly-by-wire, so you lose a bit of the feel with fly-by-wire because it's basically all you're doing when you do the input on the stick. You're just telling the computer to turn the aileron or the elevator. Whereas traditional older aircraft, it would be rods like the yoke. So you'd have more of a feel with a yoke. But going to a stick, there's less of the feel, but it's more of a response. So yeah, definitely get some good taking used to, but it's great. And it's obviously allows more room for all that sort of stuff, not having it in front of you. If you look straight ahead of you, you've got the HUD heads up display. As you look through it, you can see all the sort of information that we get presented to when we're flying. It's basically a mirror of the PFD, so the primary flying display. So pilots that fly without a HUD would have primary flying display down here, and that's again just mirrored up here. So what it does is gives us better situational awareness of what's going on outside the aircraft, whilst being able to look at all the information that we want as well.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you. I read that the A400M has both bulletproof glass as well as an armored flight deck. Is that true?
Yeah, so a lot of our aircraft will be armoured for if they're going on specific taskings or in deployment in areas that we need it. So basically they are installed with reinforced glass, so they basically have more layers than they would than traditional A400 without that. And then that coupled with our defensive aid suites, which consists of LAIRCM, which is large aircraft infrared countermeasures, and flares. That's then there to use as like a threat deterrent, basically. So yeah, we do, but it's for specific taskings.
So I'm Flight Lieutenant Bobby Manson. I'll be the captain on today's flight. Cool, that's 1400 Zulu, that's time hack for flat out 4-1 for the pilot mission brief. So this is flat out 4-1 UK local training. In terms of domestic Zen, mission folder, looking to exit low level to the east of the Isle of Skye, to northwest of Scotland. So I'm pretty excited about today's flight. We're going to showcase to you some of the capabilities that we have on the A400 with annotated. We'll be looking at low level flying in mountainous terrain, also air-to-air refueling and airdrop, as well as our short field takeoff and landing performance. Controlled airspace, one tiny confliction just north of Glasgow for about 3 miles. So a good look out ahead on that one.
Honestly, guys, I'm pretty excited for this flight because it's our first opportunity to partner with the Royal Air Force out here filming abroad. Such a historic squadron, a legendary aircraft. I can't wait to bring you along. So the standard crew on the A400M is 3 individuals, both your captain and co-pilot, as well as the loadmaster. Now in today's flight, we're gonna have a few more pilots flying with us just so they can rotate in and out to help accomplish their training. But I've been given special permission to sit right here in the jump seat. As you can see, it's one of the best views in the house. Now there are a few other things I wanna show you. First off, right behind this seat is the crew bunk area where they can rest on long flights, complete with their very own privacy curtain. And then if you head back a little bit, this is the galley area, and they have a coffee maker, an oven, and even a wine cooler. Now, why do they have a wine fridge here on a military aircraft? Well, the manufacturer of the Atlas is Airbus, a French company, so it sort of makes sense. And the last thing, if you head down those stairs into the cargo area, there's not 1, but 2 toilets, so no issues on long flights. Nice job, Airbus. Now, if you aren't familiar with the combat takeoff capabilities of the A400M, you better get ready, because this thing is able to leap off the runway like no cargo plane I've ever seen. It honestly resembles something closer to a fighter jet than a transport aircraft.
So for us in the military, we can't always guarantee that we're going to have really nice long runways. So the short field takeoff performance is really important to us. We've got 11,000 horsepower per engine, and we've got 4 engines. What we look to do for the short field takeoff is uprate the engines. That gives us a maximum possible thrust to accelerate as quickly as possible. We also take the maximum flap possible. That gives us the greatest lift, allowing us to get airborne at a slower speed. We combine that with a tactical departure. What we're looking to do is climb at the fastest possible rate to get us out of that threat band as quickly as possible and on with the mission.
Flatout 41, taxi, hold point Echo 1, runway 25, QNH 1024. Taxi, hold point Echo 1, runway 25, 1024, flatout 41. Upwind 300, 13 knots, crosswind 16, along the right, runway 25, clear for takeoff. Clear for takeoff, flatout 41. Takeoff.
Man UTO, SRS, order for stamp.
Power set. $80, check.
V1.
Rotate. Push it right, gear up.
She really climbs.
Yeah, she goes up pretty well.
So, flaps off side at 1 down to the line.
Below the line, please.
RAF.
Remaining on QNH 1024, 1800.
024, and start to load it back to normal. That is after takeoff, climb checks complete.
Thanks very much.
So the A400 has the capability to be a tanker aircraft and also a receiving aircraft. As the tanker aircraft, it's able to refuel a variety of aircraft types. It can fly really slowly, so it can refuel helicopters at low level. It can fly pretty quick, so it can refuel fast jets. It can also do a thing called buddy-buddy tanking, where one A400 can refuel another A400 to extend its range.
Horizon, you got your white band of cloud in the grey. It's just in the grey.
Oh, I just saw him, I've lost him.
1 o'clock now.
Oh, visual, thanks. The vertical and the horizontal tail are pretty much lined up, so in and out's looking alright. What do you reckon, James?
Yeah, looking good.
Currently maintaining about 1,000-foot separation until I start to lose the tanker towards the top of the windscreen.
So for us training to do air-to-air refueling on the A400, we go up and do it for real pretty early on because it's really hard to replicate in the simulator. It's tiny movements with our side stick. We're able to put the aircraft into a thing called air-to-air law, which dulls down the responses from our side stick, making it slightly easier for us. Doesn't mean it's easy though.
They can't control the drogue, it just flies where it does in the air, really.
Yeah.
For us, we've got to get into that very short area to try and tank off the basket.
Jet 42, Stern Center, request contact.
Jet 42, play contact center.
Clear contact center, Jet 40.
I'll try and squeeze up to the basket a little bit. Go forward. Nice. See, there you go, that's better.
Green, middle of the band there.
Better.
And that's all we need if you want to
Roger,
disconnect.
request disconnect, please, mate.
Jet 42, request disconnect.
Thread 42, disconnect.
Roger, red
Disconnect,
lights.
Thread 14.
Disconnecting. I was right at the after refueling range there.
Now I want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this episode, Rolls-Royce, who for more than a century has powered missions, protected lives, and delivered when it matters the most. From Spitfires and Mustangs to Harriers and Tornadoes, Rolls-Royce engines have shaped some of the most iconic aircraft in history. Today, that legacy powers the aircraft flying critical missions all around the world. More than 1,900 transport aircraft, including the Airbus A400M, the C-130, and the V-22 Osprey, all rely on Rolls-Royce to move people and equipment through some of the toughest environments on Earth. The A400M serves as Rolls-Royce's latest innovation in transport capability, driven by 4 TP400 D6 engines from the Europrop International Consortium. These are the most powerful turboprops in service today, making long-range lift, low-speed control, and precision airdrop missions possible. And Rolls-Royce isn't just powering today's aircraft, they're defining what comes next. The Army's future MV-75 tilt-rotor aircraft will be equipped with 2 Rolls-Royce AE 1107F engines, the latest evolution of a proven design that's been used by the United States for decades. These engines will bring high-power, fuel-efficient performance and rugged durability that enable the MV-75 to fly faster, farther, and operate more reliably than traditional helicopters. Rolls-Royce engineers are moving fast, using new technology and smarter manufacturing to create the engines that will power the next generation of combat and transport aircraft for years to come. If you're interested in learning more about Rolls-Royce, their career opportunities, and the future of propulsion, you can check out the link I've left down in the description below. And a big thanks to Rolls-Royce for making episodes like this possible.
For airdrops at Everly, that's Thread 42, entering Delta 128 for airdrops at Everly for approximately the next 30 miles.
I'm Sergeant Tom Goulden. I'm a loadmaster on the A400M Atlas. So the role of a loadmaster is to kind of supervise everything that's going on in the back of the aircraft, loading and unloading operations, airdrop operations, and then any passengers that we've got down the back as well. So the max payload is around 37 tons, 37,000 kilograms. That can be made up of a mixture of pallets, vehicles, helicopters. We could take up to 9 aircraft pallets, 1 helicopter, or potentially, say, 2 Land Rovers. We can do anything up to about 90 paratroopers in one load, anything up to 25,000 feet on free fall and static line as well out the ramp, as well as the side doors. Airdrop gives us so much more flexibility that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get if we had to land. There's lots of places that we need to go when we send people to where there isn't a suitable runway for us. So having the ability to drop cargo and troops out the back of the aircraft then gives us so much more ability to resupply troops on the ground or supply extra troops to the mission that's already happening on the ground.
Now for today's drop, we're using these training pallets right here, which helps the crew practice their timing and precision for a real-world event. There's 5 of them in total, weighing over a ton. And once they come out the aircraft, it will trigger this parachute right here on a static line that will deploy and ensure the cargo safely lands on the ground.
So we're working to a fairly small margin of error with airdrops. We need it to be as accurate as possible so that the cargo lands on target on the drop zone. We have a safety margin built in, of course, for the forward and backwards. Otherwise, it has to be fairly precise. We're speaking with the pilots all the time on the comms. We talk down 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 5 seconds, and then green on. And at green on, that's when we push the cargo out the back of the aircraft, and hopefully it lands in the right place.
15 seconds. 15 seconds. Yellow on. Yellow on. Green on. Green on. Roger. Red on. Red on.
When a 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit Turkey and Syria in 2023, roads disappeared, hospitals collapsed, and time was running out. The A400M quickly became the backbone of a multinational airborne relief effort, deploying ambulances, rescue teams, and mobile hospitals. Similar missions followed later that year when an earthquake hit Morocco and floods consumed Libya, with European air forces quickly taking advantage of the A400M's rapid response capabilities.
Humanitarian aid missions for us are obviously incredibly hard in one sense because you're seeing people suffering on the ground who you're trying to help, and sometimes you can't help everyone, but they're also incredibly rewarding to be involved in as everyone's pulling as hard as they can to get the job done.
It brings a real sense of purpose delivering that sort of stuff to the people in those critical phases, because you're not really just delivering cargo, you're also delivering hope.
The UK participates in the largest international airdrop into Gaza,
collectively delivering hundreds of tons of aid. This was the largest airdrop of aid in a single day.
The A400M plays a key role in the RAF's commitment to global enablement, projecting power, supporting allies, and responding to crises worldwide.
In the military, we can't always guarantee that where we'll be operating, there'll be a nice long runway. Sometimes we can airdrop the supplies to the people on the ground that need it, but if that's not possible, then we need to find our own runway. That might be a long grassy field or a flat piece of desert, and we'll look to land there instead, day or night. What that allows us to do is get the supplies to the people on the ground as quickly as possible, maximising their effect in a short timeline. We typically land on desert strips, beaches, also grass surfaces as well. The aircraft is built for this, for short landing performance.
So I've heard a lot about this aircraft's ability to land super quickly, less than 1,000 meters, right? What are you looking for here?
So for us, this will be a reduced operating standard landing. A couple of things allow us to land at such a short distance. The first is we'll be flying a pretty slow speed on approach. That reduces the amount of time it takes us to come to a complete stop. You couple that with the engines, which we can put into full reverse. That has a pretty large effect, which you'll feel when we touch down. Finally, we can put the brakes into a really high mode. So that coupled with the reverse means we stop pretty damn quick.
I've heard it said that if you want to land your army in the middle of hell, the A400M is the plane you'd want to use. Now, one of the best examples of this is the training the RAF conducts down in Pembrey Sands in southern Wales.
Pembrey Sands is a beach in Wales. We use it for our natural surface training. Pembrey Sands is a beach like any other, so that means the tide comes in twice a day, and funnily enough, we have to pick our landing times to be at low tide for obvious reasons. An interesting fact, they don't actually close the whole beach when we land at Pembrey Sands, so I can be landing my 120-ton A400 a few hundred yards away from someone walking their dog along the same stretch of beach. Must be pretty cool for them to see.
Okay, about that, mate. Yeah, that was good for me as well. Got a slightly left secret.
150. 100. 70. 50, 40, 30, 29, holding 10, 5.
99 by foul, report ready. Spoiler,
okay.
High. Peace out. For this. Oh, that's great. Reverse, cancel that. Copy. Of course, so Sam, as you can see, it stops pretty quick.
Yeah, that was more than I expected. Wow.
Alrighty, so we've got 5,000 foot to go, and we landed in set. So basically we've got enough runway to get airborne again from here. Don't have to taxi around.
Right
Bonus.
back at it. That's the pilot's dream, right?
Now, out of all the capabilities we've talked about so far, there's one in particular we've left out.
So it's about a 25-minute transit now to West Wales. We'll head into low level.
This aircraft was built for tactical missions, and that means flying low, flying fast to avoid enemy air defenses. And when you watch how she handles just a few hundred feet off the ground, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Traffic service, once we reach 6,000 feet, we'll be progressing along this track out to West Wales, so we'll look to let down back into low level.
Low level for us on the A400 is really important. The best way to not be shot at is to not be seen. And the best way to not be seen is to hide in the available terrain. And for us, that typically means the mountains either side of us or the hills. So the lower we can be, the less chance there is that the enemy can engage us.
1017 set, reading 5,800 feet, flight out 41.
Maneuverability on this aircraft is incredible. It's a fly-by-wire aircraft. What that means is there's no physical cable between my side stick with my pilot inputs and the control surfaces on the wings and the tail. Our max angular bank is 120 degrees. So what that means is from straight and level, I can go past my 90-degree knife edge and keep on going another 30 degrees. Whilst we don't use this on a regular basis, it's a nice part of the performance envelope to have in your back pocket. What the maneuverability of the aircraft allows us to do is to stay in tight, narrow valleys where other aircraft might typically not be able to. This might give us a tactical edge in a warfighting situation.
We have head tack is on the right, our ref we have set twice. Descent drop no, cut winds no, drop sequence briefing no, not by flat.
Now, one thing I want you to listen for during the low-level portion of our flight is the communication between the crew.
Granite terrain, you can see middle distance with the sun on it. You come in left before that. Roger.
The coordination is razor sharp and every single person is locked in, calling out wires, towers, terrain, birds, and other aircraft that might be in the area.
And air deflectors are out. No harness parachutes, ramp and door.
The crew knows how high stakes this portion of the flight is, and it was pretty cool to hear how dialed in everyone was.
In the A400, we fly our low level at 270 knots. That's roughly 4.5 miles a minute. So when we're in the mountainous terrain, you really have to be on it. If you turn too early or too late, the aircraft's not going to be in the right position to make that turn. You always have to be focused on what's coming up ahead, looking for any cloud, rain showers, or any terrain that might affect you.
So it's about a 25-minute transit now to West Wales, over the sea, and then we'll get you on the ramp and door for the Mac Loop.
Good, Sam.
The Mac Loop is pretty famous in the aircrew world. Essentially, it's an intense 5 minutes of flying around some of the most beautiful mountainous scenery in Wales. It's incredibly useful for us in the training environment. Within those 5 minutes, we get a variety of terrain to fly over. From narrow, winding valleys to steep-sided high mountains. I think it's fair to say if you can fly successfully around the Mac Loop, you can probably fly in most places.
The valley creates a natural racetrack, tight turns, steep terrain, and dramatic backdrops, making it the perfect place to train. Because of how close you can get to the aircraft, it's one of the best places in the world for plane spotters to hike up and capture high-speed, low-altitude footage of military aircraft doing what they do best. And of course, I want to give a huge shout out to the team of spotters who hiked up to film our flight and are behind the shots you're about to see.
Now, if you guys have been a fan of our channel for a while, you'll know my favorite thing to do is called ramp riding. It's where you take this harness right here and walk to the edge of the open ramp door to sit and look out on some of the most spectacular views in the world.
Elevate 17, flat out 41, single A400, low level, entering the Lake District, Windermere routing north, elevate 17, flat out 41.
Now, while I've done that before, what I haven't done is do it here in the United Kingdom, where we get to look over castles and lakes and some truly incredible scenery. I can't think of a better way to close out this video than bringing you guys along right here to go ramp riding.
Just flying through the Mac Loop alone is cool enough, but I knew this might be my only shot at it, so I wanted to do something pretty incredible. I didn't want to just watch it from the flight deck, I wanted to feel it from the edge of the ramp door, staring straight down at the valley below.
So it never really gets old. The door opens first and you sort of hear the airflow and you can see the light out the back of the aircraft. And then when the ramp comes down, you really feel the wind. At this point, we're doing anything up to 200 knots, so you're pretty fast and it can be really high.
why they call it ramp riding. It's loud, it's windy, but it's exhilarating. It's one of the coolest things you can do in the back of a military aircraft. Right now we're flying over Loch Ness. This is the largest lake in Scotland, also known for the Loch Ness Monster. I'm trying to see if I can find it. You guys help me out. Let's see if it's out there. Essentially, we've been around once. So this will be us doing the eastern side of the back loop before heading off towards Lake Barla.
Such a good feeling when you sat on the edge of the ramp, hearing the wind go past you. It's really cool. It's a really cool drop.
Flying over 200 knots all the way up into Scotland, passing sites like Loch Ness, Aileen Donan Castle, even the Harry Potter Bridge, it was pretty surreal.
We are so lucky with the terrain that we get to fly over in the UK. On a beautiful sunny day, there's nothing better. It's such a unique perspective that we see the world from. Very aware that only a very few people get to do it, so I'm incredibly lucky. At the same time, we shouldn't forget why we're training in that low-level environment. At any point, we could be called on to use this in a warfighting environment, and that should always be in the back of your mind as well.
Dreadnought 42, runway 25, service wind 2704 knots, clear to land.
It's such a privilege and an honour to be able to participate in humanitarian aid and to be a lifeline to people that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have one. Sometimes what you're dropping is not necessarily just ammunition and cargo. It could be actual life-saving aid for people that really need it.
Equal bars now for these, so.
When you fly around the UK and your friends and family ask you, what is it like to fly around the UK? You sit back and think how lucky you are. You get to go around all these places and you get to experience all those amazing places that people would usually see from the ground. You get to see it from the air.
Yeah, you're 500.
A little bit higher than mine. Yeah, 2 and 2 now. 2 and 2 now. Looking good. Go off at the start, just beyond the actually.
So whether that's a really unpredictable or challenging environment, the impact is undeniable, so it makes every effort worth it. print of the A400 frames.
Now, we filmed a lot of different aircraft over the years, but something about the A400M just stands out. It's not just a cargo plane, it's fast, it's tactical, and it can do a whole lot more than I ever expected. From sitting in the flight deck to the edge of the open ramp door to just watching this team communicate and work so closely together gives me a new sense of appreciation for all that they do. I want to give a huge shout out to the Royal Air Force here at Brize Norton for letting us come out to film. And for you guys watching, if you thought that was cool, just wait to see what we have coming next.